Hey, what's up, everybody? Today is 4/20/2026, and I am here with Thomas Mitchell from 180 SMP on the Dattie podcast. Thanks for coming, Thomas.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I've been waiting for this for some time, so I'm excited to chop it up.
Yeah, I appreciate all the support you've given me over the years. And just so we set the standard, you are in Connecticut, correct?
Sure. Yeah, Manchester, Connecticut.
Manchester, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So there's that big expo. Do you go to the CT Barber Expo?
Yeah, for sure. I've gone to it, I think maybe the last 9 years, and
It's been going on for 9 years?
it's been going on longer than that, actually. So it's been going on longer than that. I started going when it was at the convention center, and now it's at the casino. Jay moved it to the casino, and I've always gone as an attendee, but last year we had a booth there. So we had a 180 SMP booth where we offered education. We had live demos. We had set up a little station where people could play with the machines and things like that. So it was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. And it looks like people come from all over the world to go to this.
Yeah, I want to say it's the biggest barber expo in the world. It's like 10,000 people or more. So
That's
yeah,
insane. That is insane. I know Taylor Perry loves it. He talks
yeah,
about it. He's been trying to get me to go. Every year I'm like, maybe I'll come up, but I'm not a barber, but I know there's some SMP people there
yeah,
too that show
yeah.
up and they push their products. I don't know.
You should definitely go, man.
And I looked up, it's only 5 hours away. It's 5 hours
Not
north
bad.
from me. I could take the train up.
Yeah.
What part of Connecticut are you in versus where the expo is?
I'm like 40 minutes away, so it's
Okay.
not. I always stay at the casino for like 2 or 3 days, and sometimes I have my family there and stuff like that too. So I always just make a weekend out of it. You know what I mean?
Nice little vacation.
Yeah, just to network, see familiar faces. It's always a good time.
Before we go into it,
Yeah,
since we're talking about that 10,000 people, that means there's probably quite a few local people, I'd say, that go there.
yeah.
Or is there a lot of competition in the SMP industry in Connecticut?
Uh, there's a handful of us. The biggest competition, and I don't even know if competition is the right word to use. But there are a couple artists that were like pioneers that are actually from Connecticut. So there's some people here that have over 10 years of experience that have academies and have been doing it a long time. So I remember going to the expo maybe my first year 9 years ago, and there was actually an SMP artist there with live models to kind of show what was going on. But this was the early days, which felt like the early days to me 9 years ago for sure, especially introduced to the barber industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Tom, before we go into it, you have, from what I could tell, you have a full head of hair.
yeah,
How
yep.
how how did you get in? How did you get into the SMP industry?
So yeah, man. To be honest with you, I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me this question. I think I first saw SMP in 2017, right? And I actually hit up some barbers down in Tampa. Chris Basio and these guys they collabed with a local Tampa artist. I want to say it was called like Star, maybe Star. I don't know if you've ever heard of that,
I've
but
never heard of Star now.
they collabed with a local SMP artist and they were offering training. And I think they offered a couple guys. I actually found these messages like on my Facebook messages from 2017. And that was my very first interest because I hit them up to get it done. And I probably just saw it through social media. But I opened my first barbershop in 2018. And funny enough, um, 2 doors down from my barbershop was an SMP clinic. And I think it was like a private franchise. And there was a lady working in there. And I spoke to her. She was very nice. And I asked her about training, and she said that she did offer training, but it was a bit of a conflict of interest because she didn't want to train me being right next to her.
Yeah.
I was,
Reasonable request. I mean, two doors down. I get it. I get it.
yeah, I was literally 2 doors down, and she's still a local artist now. So it was never a thing. And I had my focus on building and scaling the barbershop at that time. So I kind of let it drift for a few years. I opened the shop in August of 2018, and I went and got trained in January of 2021. So
Okay.
yeah.
January 2021. Okay.
But yeah, man, if you see me, I mean, I'm covered in tattoos. I've been cutting hair for over 20 years. And so when it came to ink and hair, it just seemed like a right fit, And I was a busy barber. I had a booked out schedule. I owned a shop. The shop was fully staffed. So not only was super interesting and intriguing, it was also like a business move, right? Like, how much time do I have? What's the startup cost? And things like that too. So it was a couple things that led me to it.
Okay, makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
let's get up to that point. So we were talking offline. Where did you grow up?
Yeah. So I'm a Maryland guy, man. I grew up in and around Baltimore, Maryland. Born and raised, and was kind of a gypsy kid. So when people ask me where I'm from, I usually just use Baltimore as a landmark. That's the city I was born in. That's where I stayed some time, but also lived in and around the city and even out in the suburbs and in places like that. When you're from Maryland and you're from Baltimore, everyone is trying to get out of Baltimore and go to the outskirts. So that's like that's the goal for everyone, is getting out of here, getting out of here. At least it seemed like that way for me.
Now they're selling it as we're cleaning up Baltimore. We're cleaning up Baltimore.
Yeah.
I go there every so often, not as much as I go to Philly, because they're both about the same distance for
Yeah.
me. Both about 45 minutes, 50 minutes
Yeah.
away. And I go to the harbor when I go to Baltimore. I go
Yeah.
to the harbor. I stick to that area. I
Yeah.
feel pretty good. They
Yeah.
cleaned it up because some people were just throwing trash, and it's right next to the aquarium and all
Yeah.
the touristy stuff right
Yeah.
there.
Have you been there with your kids, like the aquarium and the museum?
That's on my list. I haven't done it yet, but I play. The crazy part is my two choices for aquarium. I can go to Camden, shithole, at Baltimore. They're cleaning it up. It's like that's my options.
Yeah, it's the same. And Baltimore and Philly I feel like have a lot of similarities. I mean,
Very similar, just further apart.
If you're diehard one or the other, you might not want to agree with that, but it's definitely, from a bird's
No, I
eye,
get it.
it's very, very much alike.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, and there's and any major city. See, the cities on the East Coast, I think, are a lot older than the ones in. I feel like we have a lot more people. So because there's a lot more people, there's a lot more homelessness, which then stems into a lot more crime. And that's it's just never ending.
Yeah.
So when you said you bounced around, why'd you bounce around so much? Or gypsy,
man,
I think is a word you use.
Like a lot of people, if you're from Baltimore, around Baltimore, the drugs, man, the drugs, drugs from a young age just really was the defining factor of the reality of my life. Both my parents were heroin addicts, both in and out of prison, both, just in the streets and a mess, really. So when you have two drug addict parents, there's not much stability in the home. So my mom would go to prison and stay with my dad. My dad would go to prison, stay with my aunt. I was taken by DCF when I was younger and had to wait some time for them to get me back. So yeah, man, I pretty much was just a product of their decisions.
I understand. When you got taken, how long was it for, and where did you go?
To be honest with you, I don't fully remember it. I was maybe like 2 or 3 years old, and it was me and my younger brother, who was about a year younger than me, and my parents were together, and they had me. And I guess before my first birthday, they had this brief time period where they split, and my mom got pregnant by somebody else, and they got back together and tried to work it out, but they were both so bad into the drugs that someone must have called DCF or something, and they took me and my younger brother. And I guess after some time, maybe a year or so, I don't really know the timeline on it. My dad was able to straighten himself out enough to say, "Hey, like we're gonna get if you know we're gonna go get Tommy back, but I'm not taking this other guy's kid, you know." So call it what you want, you know. I mean, it's a terrible situation to be in, but I don't think he was willing to raise this other man's kid. But he was willing to try to get me back, and so that's what they did. And my other brother Joseph ended up getting adopted and found me at 30. So 30 years later,
Holy
he
shit.
he ended up finding me. Yeah, yeah. So which is pretty cool. So we talk.
So you didn't really know your younger brother when you were growing up.
No, so my mom had 6 kids, 6 different fathers, and, I only grew up primarily with 1 younger brother and 1 younger sister, and my other brothers, 1 I've never met, 1 grew up with his father, the other one grew up in foster care and in group homes and stuff like that, got adopted, so, we were kinda all over the place.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know that lifestyle as well, and we've talked offline a little bit
Yeah.
about it. So, what ended up happening? You move back. Your mom's still on drugs. Your dad gets you out from Child Protective Services, and are you living with your dad? What's that life like?
When we were little, man, I just remember it being pretty scary, you know. It was a scary it was a scary time. My dad was also a big guy. He was 6'7", 300 pounds. And, you know, maybe when he wasn't strung out on drugs, he wasn't that heavy, but he was a big, scary guy. And um a lot of it was just confusion, but it was also just normal. I just remember just it was so normal to just be afraid and the drama and pretty much both my parents, I don't know if you want to call it admirable or not, but they weren't willing to like give me up, you know, like my grandparents wanted to adopt me, my aunt wanted to take me in, and they weren't willing to give me up, so they just drug me through, you know, the realities of that lifestyle, you know. I actually went down to Florida and stayed 2 years with my grandparents in Deerfield Beach when I was like 5 or 6. It was some of the best memories I have growing up, and they wanted to adopt me and put me in school down there, but my parents just they wouldn't sign me over, you know. So as much as I appreciate that, and I guess I could understand that as a parent, it would have been better off to probably just let me go for a little while they straighten themselves out, you know.
Yeah, but the ego plays a big role, right? And they
Yeah, I
probably
think good.
They and I feel like the ego plays a big role, and maybe your dad, and I don't know what his situation
Yeah,
or what ended up happening, but maybe he was like, you know what, I'm gonna straighten myself out, and I'm gonna stay sober, and I'm gonna, maintain a job, and I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. But
yeah,
in my experience, that usually doesn't happen for.
yeah.
Maybe it happens for a little bit, but it always goes back.
Yeah, no, it didn't happen. Yeah, it happened for a little bit, and like you said, maybe the ego. I think it was a sense of like I know that I'm doing really, really bad, but as long as I have Tommy, or at least I still have him with me, it's not as bad as it might seem, you know. So maybe it was like covering their guilt a little bit with it, you know. I don't know.
No, no, I understand.
Yeah,
Uh, so how much time? So you come back from Florida. Did you
yeah.
spend like consecutive years with your mom or your dad in a row? Like, did you go to school?
Yeah, so I did, but it wasn't super consistent. I spent a couple years with my dad, and then he ended up going back to prison, and then a couple years with my mom. You know, couple elementary schools, couple middle schools, and I kind of just ping pong back and forth to whoever was the most stable at the time. You know, um, thankfully my mom pretty much cleaned up for almost the entirety of me being in high school, which was a huge blessing, you know. I was was a football player, had a lot of friends, had a great kind of high school experience. I had a rough, traumatic childhood, but those years in high school were a lot of fun. And my mom actually stayed clean for those years that I know of. She's very sneaky, but she wasn't out um, as far gone as she had been before. So that was actually a real blessing. But by the time I was 18 and in my senior year, by the tail end of my senior year, um, she was out again. But I got that little bit of time. That was good.
Yeah, it's a very important years too. My mom also was sober during
Oh,
my high school, I guess. I guess from like 8th to 12th grade, I guess. Yeah, something like
wow.
that. Yeah. I think she drank, but she wasn't doing all the other stuff. And
Yeah.
it's you can definitely tell it's taking a toll
Yeah.
on my mom for sure.
Yep.
And then they when you're an addict and you get off a drug, then they usually go to some other medication, I'll say, that's
Yeah.
prescribed.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little bit better, but there's still some tendencies.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say that. So, you're talking my language, with my dad, he passed away like 10 years ago, but he he stopped using heroin, but he was on methadone and morphine and Xanax for the next 15, 20 years from that. So I mean, he's not hawking his TVs and he's not strung out with a needle in his arm, but he's still, putting his face in his dinner plate and burning holes in his shorts with his cigarettes and, falling asleep behind the wheel. And I mean, to me, unfortunately, he still died an addict, whether it was through medication or, illegal drugs. It's just no difference.
Did you ever, as you get older, did you maintain a relationship with him to try and find out why he was like that or why he always had to use drugs?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And, I think it took me becoming a man and growing older and maturing to kind of look at my mom and dad from an outside perspective, not just mom and dad, but just see my dad as a man and see my mom as a woman and see what they went through. And like most people, not all people, right? Addiction has no boundaries. But it was all driven by trauma for both of them. My dad was adopted. He was adopted by who I call my grandfather, who was retired out of the Navy and then was a narcotics lieutenant in Baltimore City. And he couldn't have any kids, but he was a 1970s cop. He was short, he was angry, he was abusive, and he just abused my dad tremendously. I mean, punch him in his mouth, spit in his face, throw him down the stairs. I mean, he just was incredibly abusive to him, to the point where I think my dad told me he took his dad's gun when he was 9 years old and contemplated suicide. And
Jeez.
he was adopted, so it was very confusing for him, right? It's like, you went out and chose me. Why would you treat me this way? So he had tons of trauma behind his upbringing. And then also my mom's mom passed away when she was 7 years old. So she grew up without a mom. She was sexually abused by family members and all these kind of things. She joined a biker gang, back in the 70s and 80s. And, I mean, both of their trajectories were not great. So to bring a child into that, what do you expect, right? What do you
Yeah.
expect? But it took me some years to kind of process that. And to be honest with you, I don't think I really even processed it till I was a young man, a young adult, because to me, it just was normal, right? It just was the life I was living. I didn't even really, I mean, there was some sense when, you know, you look around and you have friends whose parents weren't in prison and they weren't on drugs. But to me, that was my story, and it was normal to me.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what you knew and you had to live
Yeah.
it. You weren't really escaping it.
Yeah.
I know all too well about it. Yeah, I tried to figure out like my dad, why he, like, he was never part of my life or anything either, and he was on heroin as well. and died in 2012. But I was like, why is he like this? Why? And I reached out to one of my aunts on Facebook. Like, I did the DNA test, you know, and all that. And so some people popped up. And so I looked them up on Facebook and the 23andMe. So I look them up and I was like four of them, I was like, I reached out to one that seemed the most normal, right? So I reached out to one of my relatives that seemed the most normal. And I found out basically my dad, my biological dad, his dad died when he was like 3 or 4 years old. So he also grew up without dad. So I imagine it was probably chaos.
Yeah.
But I didn't get much more than that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you said, I think it's just childhood trauma and they never dealt with it.
Yeah. It's just transferred down, transferred down. Even my grandfather, who treated my dad that way, I come to find out that he was Polish, and his dad, they lost their mom when they were all little. He was one of like 3 or 4 brothers, and all his brothers died like in the early 1920s from like pneumonia and
Polio and shit.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
he grew up with his dad, and his dad obviously lost his wife and his sons. So he was a really bad alcoholic and was abusive to him. And it just goes down and down the line until somebody breaks it,
Yep. And that's how my pop-up was. I mean, my pop-up was a raging alcoholic and, he had no business having a daughter, which was my mom, and so she had to deal with that. You're right. And then my pop-up's dad, they were from Italy. His dad was from Italy, and it was a lot different. And, if you talk back or if you're like, I don't like this, they call you a bitch or, there was no sympathy. There was no sympathy.
Yeah.
Just toughen up, bitch.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But obviously we know it now. We know people should probably talk to someone.
Yeah.
I think it helps. Therapy for everybody should seek therapy. Did you ever go to any counseling throughout, like all the way through high school? Did they send it to you?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was mandated by the state to go to counseling, just through whatever the court systems and custody battles and things like that. And they mandated that I go to counseling. But through high school, I didn't go to any counseling.
Was this like in 5th grade, 6th grade? You were doing it?
Probably like elementary school, maybe.
Was it in the school? Did you do it through the school? Like
No.
or they would actually take you to a different location?
Yeah, my mom would like drive me to the office and have to sit. She wasn't allowed to sit in there, and I'd have to go in there and talk to someone,
Yeah, I had to do counseling too, but it was through the school. So I was just wondering how that worked.
Yeah.
Would you lie? I used to lie, like to make it sound not as bad.
To make it sound worse, you're saying?
No, make it sound not as bad. Like I would lie to let them, like, because I was afraid, like what happened to you is terrible.
Yeah.
You get taken away from your parents, even though your parents are in a shitty situation, it's still your parents.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get taken away, so I would lie, so I wouldn't get taken away.
Yeah. You know what? At that time, I don't think that I was lying, and I was a little bit quiet, and I didn't understand that risk. Like what you're saying, I don't think I was comprehending if I say the wrong thing, they'll take me away. At that time, I don't think that that's why I was ordered. I think that they literally just wanted me to get some help because they knew that I was going through a lot. So it wasn't like let's hear what he has to say to see if we got to get him out of there. It was like, let's just try to help him because he's been through a bunch of crap. I don't know. That's how I think.
Do you think it did help you? I mean, obviously you're doing well now.
I don't know if it helped me or not, to be honest with you. I don't know if it helped me or not at that time. I mean, obviously years down the road, my kind of recovery or healing and peace was found years down the road. It wasn't until my mid-20s before I actually was able to overcome some of that stuff and navigate all that stuff as a kid,
Okay, well, before we get into that, because I do want to hear about that, going through high school, your mom's around, your dad's not around. Now, are you living with your mom at this time?
I'm living with my mom, but my dad's in close proximity. He's probably 20-30 minute ride away from where I was staying. So,
and 2 siblings are with you, or is it just you?
I got two siblings, and my mom is married at the time to my stepfather, and my dad is married as well, with two stepchildren.
What did you get along with the stepdad?
Yeah, yeah, he was cool. He was a cool guy. He just, you know, we all, no man is perfect. He was more, he was a great provider, right? Like he just went to work and he came home and, you know, was in his room and stuff. But he never, I didn't have like an emotional connection to him. He wasn't like uh, he didn't try to connect with me on an emotional level, but he was a solid guy, man, and his family was amazing. So a real saving grace for me and my younger brother and sister was that my mom married this really great guy from a really great family, and that family really loved us and gave us a lot of cool opportunities growing up that we just never would have had. We just never would have had that if my mom didn't marry him.
Like what? Give me an example.
So like my stepdad's brother like worked for the Pentagon in Homeland Security. So like he did very well for himself and he didn't have any children. So at Christmas time, his gift to his brother and our family, like he would rent like a big skiing lodge, like in Western Maryland. And, you ever heard of Wisp?
Yeah, actually, I have.
Deep Creek Lake?
Yeah, yeah.
So he would rent like a ski in, ski out lodge up there that holds, 20, 30 people. And he would buy us tickets and everyone ski tickets and pay for the lodging for like 3 days,
Oh,
So I
that's
was,
dope. Yeah, you
yeah, it's
definitely
like,
one who did that,
you know what I mean? Like, dude, I would have never been able to do something like that. So
Did
stuff
the
like,
stepdad, sorry to cut you off, did the stepdad have any kids?
no, no kids, no
Okay.
kids, and took all my mom's kids in. So I still love and respect him a lot, for what he did. He took my mom in and raised us as they were, as if we were his kids, man.
Yeah, and and when you get older, you realize that's a big undertaking, and that
Yeah,
takes a lot of courage, a lot of financial commitment too, right? And patience to deal with these kids that already, I don't want to say, it, but are emotionally damaged,
yeah,
and now you got to deal with this, and you might have to hear, "You're not my effing dad," that type of
yeah,
shit all the time, even though
yeah.
he's just trying to do his best.
Yeah. 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 And dude, my mom put him through the ringer, man. I mean, she put him through the ringer. So he didn't he didn't run, man. My mom, we'd come home from school and he'd be sitting on the couch and we'd be wondering why his car was in the driveway, because he didn't get home till later. And he'd be like, I'm sorry to tell you this, like your mom's gone, and she'd be gone 2, 3 months at a time. And, he would take her back and he would take her back and he would take her back. And he just loved her unconditionally, man. He just rocked out with her for so many years. And I think he genuinely was in love with her and he probably obviously had love for us and felt bad for us. So
What's up, SAP world? It's Chris with the Blends Protein. A lot of people are switching over to our products. The most realistic results are being put out using Blends products. These products were made for artists by artists. We want to make you a believer. Here's 20% off your first purchase. Use Dattie podcasts. Blends for the most natural results in the world.
you know,
So when your mom was going out on these benders, I presume,
yeah, yeah.
would you would just go to school and just live your normal life? She just wouldn't be there.
Yeah, man. She would just go and you just knew it was bad. You just knew it was bad when my younger and brother and sister, they were a little bit younger. I had already been through a lot of that. So when he told me like, hey, your mom's not coming home tonight, like I already knew she's off again. And
Mhm.
that could last a couple weeks or that could last a couple months. But I remember her coming home and just like a dead person walking through the door, man. Just 80, 90 pounds soaking in wet and just staying in her room for days and days and days till she got some weight on and, just was coming back, man, coming back to the reality. And then she'd make it a couple years more and it would just repeat itself.
Yeah.
It was a crazy, crazy time.
What would you have to visit her at, like, rehab centers? I assume she probably went to a few rehabs here and there.
Yeah, I never went to go see her at any rehabs, and I don't think she was really asking for it either.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, a lot of these people, I mean, this is a whole side conversation. A lot of this recovery stuff and these beautiful facilities and being able to, get detox medically and all that kind of stuff. I mean, my experience was much more of an old school experience. I mean, my mom didn't have, if there was no beds were open and we didn't have any money, I mean, we were just cold turkeying it. I mean, it just was, you were just thugging it out. There was no, we weren't going to California or Florida. You know what I mean? You were quitting it the hard way, So sometimes maybe she'd get a bed somewhere, and then other times, she was in the bedroom, going through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear it's brutal. I hear it's
Yeah.
brutal for like 5 days or something like that,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's terrible.
Puking and they get the dope sick.
Yeah, it
Because
does.
they need it, but if that'll make them feel better, but then they're addicted, but they have to stay off. It's rough. It's
Yeah.
a rough life. And I mean,
Yeah.
now that I mean, your mom being sexually abused, I mean, can you blame her?
Yeah.
To wanting to escape.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy to look at someone and say, oh, they're a junkie or they're a drug addict, whatever the case. But if you knew what they truly went through, I think most people would sympathize with them.
Yeah. 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 Not to excuse it, right? There's always
Yeah.
like everyone goes through stuff and how you take your trauma and package it and how you handle it. But it definitely just made me better understand their stories and things like that. It was hard. How could I expect, I think there's a God given conscience and there's some common sense to things and there's wisdom and there's probably a lot of things that she knew were bad decisions. But, when you grow up without a mom, how could I really have super high expectations for what she would be like for a mom when she never had one. So, I've shown her some grace and let a lot of that stuff go.
She's still alive today?
She's not. No, she's
No.
not.
When did
No.
she die?
She passed away August 12th in 2018. So she actually passed away the first week I opened my barber shop. I actually got the call while I was at the shop, and she ended up dying from a fentanyl overdose.
I'm
So
sorry to hear that, man.
yeah, she died from a fentanyl overdose, and kind of a crazy coincidence. She died on the same day my dad died. They died on the same day, three years apart though. So
That is wild.
yeah,
That
it's
is
not
really
like some
wild.
love story or anything like that, because they weren't together. But it's still a crazy, you know, crazy thing to happen.
Was she still living down in the Baltimore area?
No, so to be honest with you, she passed away in Chicago, and she was in Chicago waiting for a bed to get into this recovery spot that she had been to before, and she really liked it and had a lot of really good friendships, and it was the best place that she had been to, and it's a place that she wanted to go back to get into after kind of relapsing. And she actually wasn't in the program yet. And she was waiting for a bed in that program, and she ended up passing away from a fentanyl overdose. So,
Damn. Were you
yeah.
still in contact with her at all before this happened? Or just here and there?
I was, but very limited. My wife and I, we took my mom in, in our early few years of marriage, we took her in like 4 or 5 times. And she'd come stay with us, and we'd give her a room and just love on her like crazy and bring her to church and buy her everything she needs. And, I'd stay up late with her and try to counsel her and, just try to be what she needed, and she'd always leave. So, I'd be away at work, and my wife would call and say, your mom's gone. Like, she left a note on the bed, and she just left and left again and left again and left again. And the last time she left, my first daughter, I didn't have any more kids at the time. My first daughter was 2, and my 2-year-old was like tucking her in at night, tucking Nana in at night, and they were building a relationship. And so when she left that last time, my daughter started asking me, "Where's Nana? Where's Nana?" And it was at that point that I just made the decision that I needed to protect my family, and that all the things that I had went through, was over here, but I'm never going to let my mom, I was never going to let my mom's decision making and everything that she was affect my kids. Like there was just no way, I just had to draw a hard boundary, to not let her back. So a couple months later after leaving, she asked to come back, and I refused to take her back. And, she passed away a couple months after.
I understand, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
It comes a point in time where you gotta protect your tribe, and you know what it's like. You work so hard to build a fruitful life and stability and heal, and you get your chance at leading a family and raising kids. And I just was not willing to risk any of that,
That's a tough and it's a tough decision to make. I
Yeah.
get it. I really do.
Yeah.
Did you get your mom, I guess, transferred from Chicago to Maryland area, or how did you handle all that? Or
Yeah,
who
so
handled it?
to be honest, yeah, so she was very clear with she was very clear like what she wanted. She wanted to be cremated and be put in the ocean. So we had her cremated in Chicago, and then sent to me in Connecticut, man, which is just for those of anybody who's ever had anybody cremated, it's a weird thing, right? It's a kind of
Yeah.
a bizarre thing, to pick up a box and be like, "There's your mom," it's just a
Yeah.
weird emotional thing. It was tough. It was really tough. So yeah, she made it clear, like, if she was to go, what she wanted. So I didn't really have any questions about what to do, after she passed. I think the hardest part was, me and the siblings and everybody that ever knew my mom, everyone assumed that that's how she would pass. I kind of held on to the hope of maybe that wouldn't be the reality, but I did expect it at the same time. And even though everybody expected it, when it actually happens, it still punches you right in the face. It's just, even if you thought it was coming, it didn't help it at all.
Yeah, because then it's actually does happen, and now you
Yeah,
have to deal with it and live with it
yeah,
and
yeah,
feel those emotions.
yeah, yeah. So, so yeah, man, it was a tough thing. My family all came up from Maryland, and all my brothers and sisters, and we all went out to this beautiful place out here on the ocean, and spread her ashes. And on Mother's Day and her birthdays, I'll still go out there and stand on the shoreline and pay my dues to her. So
Yeah.
yeah. I think the hardest part now is, I don't know if your parents are still alive, but is really just the desire. Two things. One is, I just wish you know, I just wish, obviously, she could have won. It just feels like such a sad story, just her upbringing and what she went through and all the stuff we did. And then just to close your chapter like that is just a sad story. It's just a sad story. So I wish she could have ended well, just with simple things, man. She could have been independent. She could have had her own little place, and whatever that looked like, see the kids and stuff. And that's probably the second thing, is this, I'd like to have them around more for my children, more than me, just to let her be a grandma, not even so much for them, just for her, just so she could feel what it's like to see all my little babies running around. But, just, how it is, man. Some people are just passing through, they just don't seem like they can ever get traction in this world.
I get it, and I know all the feelings you have with that, and but she did win in a way where she produced a son, you, who has gone on to be successful despite all
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
in a way, she did win, because there's a lot of women, and men who have kids who go through the same bullshit you and I went through,
Yeah.
but they stay stuck
Yeah.
in that negative environment continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Get drunk and high, go to jail, get in rehab, come out, fuck a few people over, do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you did escape it. She did produce you.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say it like this, like I was really blessed to learn who I didn't want to be, you know, and what I didn't want to do. You know, I mean, as much as that, you know, however that might sound, you know, it wasn't about everything that was instilled in me and all the life lessons and all the good things. It was more or less, it gave me a clear picture of don't go this way, which I, you know, I'm grateful for now. You know, obviously, you know, trials and tribulations build character and build you into the man, you know, that you become. So I am grateful for it. I'm grateful that I got a clear view of what I wanted for my life and how I wanted it to be different, you know.
And how did you, so after high school, thank you for sharing that. And after high school, what do you decide to do? So you're graduating, you dealt with all this stuff, and now what do you do?
Yeah, so just to make a long story short, man, because we could talk all day, but my kind of ticket out of the trauma and a ticket away from Baltimore and getting out of Maryland and starting a family and doing all that was all tied to football. You know, I was you know, I put myself in the opportunity in a position to potentially play D1 football. My dream was to go play professional football. From the time I was little, all my little school books and what do you want to be and everything was tied to that, you know, my identity. And then, you know, when I got to high school, you know, I was just laser locked into trying to go D1, you know, and so lifting weights and training. And don't get me wrong, I was partying and stuff with friends and stuff like that. But my main goal and my main ticket was playing sports, playing football. So when I got out of school, that didn't happen. And a big reason why it didn't happen was because of one is my grades. I didn't have a good enough high school transcript to get a full ride. It was full ride or nothing for me, you know, and I didn't have any guidance. I didn't know what a student loan was. I didn't know how to apply for financial aid, you know. Dude, my parents didn't even have bank accounts, you know. My dad cashed his check at a liquor store, you know what I mean? Like they never
payday loans.
You know, and you know, you would think people were like, well, the school didn't talk to you, your guidance counselor. And dude, I had no direction, you know what I mean? So I kind of blindly thought like, I'm just good enough that I'm just going to get a call and they're going to say, come play and and everything's covered, you know, and that wasn't the reality. You know, I got invited to walk on to some schools. I wanted to play for Penn State. Actually, that was like my dream, play for Penn State. I went to their high school camps and, had some connections over there and, I couldn't get a full ride and I didn't have a dollar to my name. And so, I ended up, you know, calling my dad one day in tears and you know, telling him, hey man, I don't think I'm going to be able to go play. You know, I think this train stops here. And, you know, he tried to encourage me the best he could and said, you know, there's more to life in football and things like that. But, you know, by the end of the conversation, he was like, hey, Tom, you know, you're a big, strong guy. Like, walk up on any job site. I'm sure you'll get a job. You know what I'm saying? So, dude, I got into working construction, you know, like working construction, working hard manual labor jobs and stayed around town. And, you know, that kind of spun off into a crazy downward spiral pretty quick.
Working the construction, what were you doing? Like, what kind of work?
Well, I was in new construction, plumbing. I did landscaping. I did regular construction, home improvement. I worked for, I was in pavement for a little while and things like that. So
concrete's hard work.
Is it?
It is fucking hard work.
Have you ever heard of Gray and Sons or no?
No.
Okay. I was actually on the dirt crew. So I wasn't on the road crew. I was on the dirt crew, like running heavy construction equipment, you know, to like get everything ready for the pavement to go down. So
yeah. So then what happens? So you're doing that and what are you going out partying at night?
Just partying, man. You know, the local, you know, everyone that didn't go away to school and all the locals and stuff like that, you know. The thing about being around Baltimore, man, is like the drugs touch you, you know, the drugs they're in arm's reach. So if you're not using them, you know someone who is using them or somebody's mom who's using them. I mean, it's sad. It just feels like a way of life out there, you know. It's just so crazy. So at least in my realm it was. I know there's a lot of people that did not experience any of that, but in my world, it felt like I was all surrounded by it, you know. So what led, me not being able to go away and play college football, and I can identify this now. I didn't really know what was going on at the time, but I was really struggling emotionally with a lot of things that I grew up with, but I didn't know that, you know. I just was depressed, you know. So I was depressed and I was angry and I was going through a bunch of stuff and processing a bunch of stuff. And yeah, man, I just stayed around Baltimore, and you know, one thing led to another, you know, and the weekend parties got more intense, and the things that started coming around became more intense, and um which started off with just trying different things ended up turning into my own full-blown addiction fast, you know. So it was kind of a crazy turn where the person the person and things that I said I would never do and the person I would never wanted to become was actually who I was becoming, you know, just and which felt like a blink of an eye. You know, I just was running down that road super fast, kind of blindly, not even realizing what I was doing, you know.
And it can happen, without even, you take a step back, but it's just like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. And then it starts happening.
Yeah, or you think you're in control of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you got it all under control, you know.
What were
And
you, what was your, choice of fun, I'll say?
yeah, the heroin. I just
Oh, you did? Okay.
went down the same road, you know. But it didn't start that way. You know, when I was in school, I was smoking weed and drinking, and maybe in my later years, cocaine started coming around, but I was never a big coke guy. And then, we're about the same age, right around that time, 2005, 2006, with the Oxycontin stuff, man. It just that
Everybody had them. The 30s.
the 30s, the 80s, it just that's really what started it. I experiment with the pain pills and just partying, just getting messed up and having what I thought was having a good time at that time. And what goes from like just Saturday night turns into Friday and Saturday, which turns into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which turns in, let me grab a handful of these for the week. And then once you start using things during the week, when the party's over and you're still using them, you don't realize that, addiction's knocking at your door. And before you know it, you got a habit. And that's kind of what happened to me.
So what was your wake up call? What led you to, I guess, realize, I need to stop this?
Well, I kind of felt like that the whole time, like you said, I felt like that the whole time, but I was a bit powerless over it, like I just felt like I was under control, but it kind of felt like a dirty secret. I was very much like a functioning addict. I dressed nice. I had a job. I was out, had a girlfriend, drove a car. I wasn't like a strung out junkie on the side of it. It wasn't Kensington. It wasn't a Kensington vibe. I was very much a functioning kind of guy. So, and it was kind of like my secret, and it kind of was like, I'll stop it. I don't really have a problem. Like I can stop this at any time, So I always felt bad about what I was doing. I never felt like what I was doing was a good thing. And I knew that it was wrong the entire time. And I didn't want to do it, but yet I just kept doing it. You know what I mean? But I had a lot of wake up calls that I thought were going to be my wake up calls. I had a lot of friends dying. I could name more people than I got fingers and toes, man, that lost their lives through addiction, and buddies going to jail, guys and girls I know overdosing, crashing cars, people OD, you name it. What I thought was wake up calls were really not wake up calls, you just go, 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 go till you can't anymore.
But Okay. I agree, and I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean with in regards to being functioning, because I
Yeah.
also went through a period with that. You just take them, or maybe you just take them after work at the end of the day, and then you
Yeah.
don't wake up on time the next day.
Yeah.
Or maybe you start doing it like you were saying. Now it's instead of just a weekend, now I'll do it on Thursday. And now
Yeah.
I'm doing it on Thursday and Monday. There's 2 day break, and then it's 7 days a week. You're
Yep.
continuing to party by yourself. When you start partying by yourself, and it's
Yeah.
not just like a little drinking, alone,
Yeah. You got a
that's when
problem.
it's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's just such a slippery slope. It just happens so quick, So people don't wake up and decide like, I think I'm going to be a drug addict. It,
Yeah, it just happens.
happens, man. And it happens quick.
So what I guess then scared
Yeah.
you or knocked you into like, I need to cut this shit out and get my stuff together?
Well, I, like I said, to make some long story short, I struggled with addiction from 18 to maybe 25, 26 years old, off and on, not solid, but off and on. And some of that was pills and some of that was, other stuff. But um, when I was 25, 26 years old, I went homeless and, but not necessarily sleeping on the street homeless, but I had worked my way up to kind of having a great life, you could say, that I kind of imagined in my mind. So I always dreamed of leaving, right? So I wanted to get out of Baltimore. I wanted to go somewhere where nobody knew me, nobody knew my name, nobody knew my background, and I could just start fresh, man. I just was dying to just go start my life somewhere and kind of write my own story. And the reality of that is that no matter where you go, you take you with you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
You take you with you, and you take your trauma, and you take your stuff. You bring all your baggage wherever you go. So I think it can be a good start, but eventually, you catch up to yourself, and that's what happened to me. So I left Baltimore when I was 22. I moved to Pittsburgh, and I lived in Pittsburgh for a few years. Went to Job Corps. You ever heard of Job Corps?
Yeah, I've heard of Job Corps. Yep.
Yeah, so Job Corps is a crazy place, man. Job Corps is a crazy place. So for those who don't know, it's like a government funded program that's like, I think it's ages 16 to 24, and it's like, man, it's like a trade school mixed with a jail, mixed with like a juvenile detention center, mixed with like a high school. It's a crazy, unless you've been there or know someone that is there, it's so
We
hard to.
have a job. We had a Job Corps of Delaware here, and then I think it turned into Delaware Skill Center because you're right, it had multiple parts. My
Yeah.
brother went to the Delaware Skill Center.
Oh, did
You
it?
can find, you could do some good stuff there. There's some
So yeah,
programs.
so yeah, some great opportunities if you take advantage of the resources.
Key word, if you take advantage of the
Yeah,
resources.
exactly. So I took advantage of the resources. All the guys in the program were joining, like they were doing all the manual labor stuff. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And I had been coming from working outside for years, so I'm like, dude, I'm not working outside anymore. I'm going inside. So the best way to go inside, and I was just thinking career. I need to get a career, and I was trying to think of, how am I going to come up with money for school and things like that. So I went the medical route. So I actually got a nurse aid license to be a CNA, a certified nursing assistant. And I was going to use that as my foot in the door to like a hospital and, let them do tuition reimbursement or become a nurse or some type of therapist or something like that. So that was my idea behind it. So I graduated the program and lived in Pittsburgh for a couple years, and I worked in a couple different nursing homes, and I actually worked in the Alzheimer's and dementia units, so like on the psych levels. So that
That'd have
was
been fun.
yeah, yeah, and it's a woman dominated field. So like, dude, I'm taking guys down left and right. They're like, Thomas to whatever floor.
Because the dementia patients don't know where they're at, or they get crazy. I hear they
Yeah,
get
I don't
handsy
mean to laugh.
too.
I don't mean to laugh about it and make it a joke. I love those people and things like that. But yeah, you need some muscle, man, because it gets intense up there. You'll have patients corner women in the room and get violent, and it's pretty wild, working or their risks to get on the elevator and steps and leave the facility and things like that. So, but I loved it, man. I loved it. So, the thing that kind of rocked me was I had this idea. Sometimes this changes for us through seasons of life, and maybe you can relate to this, right? But in my early 20s, I had this idea. If I could get away from Baltimore, if I could go somewhere where nobody knows me and get a good job and get back in school and stay sober, find the right girl, all these kind of things, like this is what's going to make me happy, right? Like this is what's going to fulfill me if I can achieve this. And so I did achieve it. And I went out there and I did everything I said I was going to do. And it all fell in my lap. It all kind of just not fell in my lap, but it all worked out the way that I thought it was. And at that time, I remember sitting in my apartment. I had a 1-bedroom apartment. I was living by myself. I was probably 25, 26 years old. And I had got to that point that I just was explaining. And it was the loneliest, worst feeling I probably ever had in my life. And it just confused me. It totally just crushed me because I could just not figure out why I felt that way,
Yeah.
So I started backpedaling, man, why is this happening? I finally reached my goal and I did everything I said I was going to do. And yet I'm still not happy. I still don't have peace. Something's missing, something's missing, or like I'm not normal. Something's wrong with me is what I started thinking, something's wrong because I should be happy. I should be content. I'm trying to pat myself on the back. You did what you said you were going to do. And I wasn't, man. And it was just so bizarre that it really just threw me out there mentally and emotionally, So long story short, I pretty much crashed and burned after that. My grandmother passed away and left me a little bit of money. It was like a $20,000 check that she had left me, but coming from a place like me, a $20,000 check
It's a big deal.
Huge deal. Huge
Yeah,
deal,
yeah.
And I remember getting that knock on the door from FedEx and them handing me the envelope and me just pulling that check out and just weeping, just bawling, just thinking that check was going to save my life, and that little $20,000 check. And I blew it in a month, man. Maybe 3 weeks. I mean, I just took the 20 grand and just blew it,
What did you do?
Drinking, partying, buying stuff, like just blew it in a blink of an eye.
I know how easily that can be done. I get
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Some people think I
Yeah.
bought, I was just laying out my crib and going out all the time and, just
Yeah.
whatever, And at that time I didn't really have a drug problem, but I was entertaining. I was eating pills and things like that off and on, And so just as quick as I kind of hit this high, dude, I crashed and burned, I lost my job. I got evicted from my apartment and I went to the little eviction hearing, and at the eviction, they said, you got 10 days to get out. And I was in a city where I didn't really know anybody. I didn't have any family. And I just was like, what am I going to do in 10 days? Like, what am I going to do in 10 days? I was broke. I had no money. And so I had a couple $100. I put all my stuff in storage. And I actually tried to sleep in my storage unit and got caught the first night trying to sleep in my storage unit. But
happens to people all the time.
yeah. So, but anyway, the real crazy part of this story is that the night before I put everything in my storage, I got on my knees, man, and I cried out to God. There's no other way for me to explain what happened to me. I just cried out to God, and I asked him to save me. And I asked him to take my life. I just said, you got to take it. Not take it as in kill me, but just take it, because I just was tired of running, dude. I just felt like I had been running for years and years and years. And I wanted a family, and I wanted a wife, and I wanted children, and I wanted to be a certain kind of man. The life that I was living and the things that I was doing and all that, I just wanted more than that. And I just did not have the power to get there, man. And I didn't have the peace to get there. And I just could not muster it up. You know, they tell a man, like, you know, just suck it up, you know, lace, you know, tie up your bootstraps and fix it. And, you know, I just could not figure it out, man. Just could not figure life out. I just could not do it, you know? And so I cried out to God to save me and take my life. And from that night, I went on about a month or so of being homeless. And I got a call one night at 2:00 in the morning while I was riding the city bus. And I was sleeping on the bus, kind of had my head up against the window. And it was an old friend of mine from high school calling me. And he had became a pastor, you know, and this is a guy, we did drugs together. We fought together. We did everything together. And he kind of went one way and I went the other way. And he called me at like 2:00 in the morning one night. And he said, and I hadn't talked to him probably a year or so. And he said, "Hey man, don't hang up," you know? And I said, "I'm not going to hang up. What's up?" And he's like, "Dude, I gotta, you know, I gotta tell you something. I know you're going to probably think this is weird, bizarre, but I'm laying in bed and I just feel like God keeps saying your name to me. Just keeps saying your name." And so he was like, "Where are you? You know, what are you doing?" And, you know, I pretty much broke down, man. I said, "Look, I'm homeless. I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm on the bus right now, sleeping." And anyway, I just told him, "Dude, I'm tired of running and all this stuff." And he ended up telling me, "Hey man, if you're serious and, you know, you want to change your life and, you know, you want to find more, find out more about God and, you know, you want to go down that way, like you can come stay with me. You can come live with me. You know, I'm going to talk to my wife." And they just had a newborn baby. And I got a call the next day and they said, "We're going to empty the nursery and give you the room." And if you
Holy
want,
shit.
yeah, man. Yeah, newborn baby, full-time college student, dude, in graduate school, living on campus, and they decided to empty their nursery so that I could come live there.
Wow. Wow.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, just it's why I have to say it. I mean, it's just God ordained, dude. There's just no way that I could be on that bus in the middle of the night and get that call. You know, just it's crazy. It's crazy.
Big news for the SMP world. Follicule has just dropped their new scalp pigment. It's bigger, better, and made with Hanafi Color Pigments, one of the largest pigment manufacturers in the world. Not only is this pigment backed by world-class expertise, but they are giving you more of what you need. That's right. Their new, bigger bottles mean you have enough pigment to do 20 to 25 sessions in just one bottle. And because you're part of the Dattie podcast community, we're offering you an exclusive deal. 15% off all pigments and aftercare products when you use the code DADDY at checkout. Take your SMP game to the next level with Follicule Pigments. Go to the Follicule website. Get it now.
So what happened? You moved to, did you go back?
Yeah.
He's in
So
Baltimore, I'm assuming.
He was in Mass. He was living in Mass, like maybe an hour north of Boston. So I moved out to Boston, man, and nothing was ever the same from that, man. It was never the same. You know, from the time I moved out there until us speaking today, just my life took on a whole new trajectory, you know, and it's been absolutely amazing.
How long did you stay with him for?
I stayed with him about 6 months. 6 months. During that time, with just a couple months in, I met who is now my wife. So
2013, yeah.
changed my life and won the Super Bowl the same year, so that was really cool.
Joe Flacco, baby. That's
My boy
Delaware.
Flacco. Yeah, it's a Delaware guy. Yeah.
I work out with Marco, who was the guard for
Really?
Joe Flacco at University of Delaware when they won that. And then Flacco, you know, 8 years later wins it with the Ravens.
Yeah. Yeah, those are my guys, man. Those are my guys.
So you go to Massachusetts. So what are you doing? I mean, sort of that's more, first of all, what's your friend's name?
Zach Ritz.
Zach Ritz, man. Sounds like you saved your life.
Yeah.
Shout out to Zach Ritz, whoever that is.
Crazy story about that is that almost 10 years prior, he was working at a hospital, and I actually went there to detox on the psych unit. I don't know if you ever heard of guys doing that. Pretty much you check yourself into the psych unit and you get medically detox. But he went into work one day and saw my name on the list and was shocked by it because he had no idea about my addiction and the things that I was doing. And man, he was pretty much praying like, hey, God, like whatever you did to me, like do to him, you know, and just was praying it over and over and over again. And, you know, it just took 10 years of running before it actually came to fruition. So it's pretty cool, man.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So once you're living there in Massachusetts, what do you do? Are you doing more? I assume you probably going to church somewhat, but you got to be doing other things.
Yeah, so I actually stayed working as a nurse aide. I took a job, started working, and worked as a nurse aide in like a retirement. It was more of like an assisted living retirement home, and going to church and just really starting the process of healing and kind of going through everything, you know, having hard conversations with my mother, having hard conversations with my dad, you know, probably read my first book cover to cover, you know, about manhood and healing and peace. And, you know, I'm staying up all night till the sun comes up, you know, watching sermons and just really just 10 toes down in recovery and trying to fix myself, you know? And it just was such a beautiful season. I mean, it just felt like it happened overnight, you know? But it was amazing. You know, they took me in, they loved me. You know, when you come off the streets, you come from the world, man, the world is a tough, ugly place. And so to get a couple like him and the community that they were a part of and just be around some other guys and brothers just loving on you and, you know, talking to you and staying up late with you and asking you to go out to coffee and just, you know, blessing you in all these ways, man. It was amazing. You know, it was amazing.
Are you still in contact with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would hope so.
Absolutely. Yeah. My buddy, Zach, he's a pastor down in Virginia in Warrington.
Okay. What about the baby is now what?
Dude, he's like, I don't know, maybe 14 now. He's big.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
he's big.
was there any ever I imagine myself going to live with basically a small family.
Yeah.
You know, that's got to be rough. Was there ever any tension or anything crazy happen in that dynamic?
You know what? And no, nothing was crazy. And looking back, man, I just admire how he navigated the season. You know, he gave his wife and his son, you know, his newborn son, the time, and then he also gave me my time, man. You know, he'd put his wife and kid to bed, and we'd stay up at the dining room table, man, just talking for hours. You know, talking and processing and crying and praying, and just, you know, he navigated that season really well. You know, and they respected me and gave me, you know, space and grace. And I made sure to, I wouldn't say be on my P's and Q's, but I tried to just, you know.
You didn't want to mess it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, you know, be good to them as well. And, you know, live under their rules and what they had going on. I mean, they didn't really have any at the time. It was kind of seamless, to be honest with you. It was very easy. That's
great, because it could have went a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So funny real quick, on my birthday, I want to say he bought me like a month of subscription on Christian Mingle online. Listen, dude. This is so funny because this is before Tinder and Plenty of Fish.
My friend, one of my best friends, met his girl on Christian Mingle, like
really?
2008.
So this was pioneer online dating, dude. This was back in the day, right? And he's like, hey man, I got you a month. And I was like, bro, I'm not getting on Christian Mingle. Like, this is crazy, you know? Like, you know, and I fought it, man. I fought it. And he's like, you never know, bro. You never know. And you know, within a couple months of being on there, not long at all, maybe even in the first month, I was driving out to Connecticut to meet who's now my wife. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So was she the one? Did you go on any other dates before her?
No. I talked to a couple girls beforehand, but could tell probably immediately. And I was coming off kind of strong, you know. I was like, hey, I'm dating to marry. I'm not wasting my time. I'll be 30 years old in a couple years. I'm not looking for a couple year fling, and you know, I'm looking to date to marry. You know, I want a wife and I want kids, and this is the vision I have for my life. So I was putting that out, and I think that probably attracted a lot of women and maybe turned some off too. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's better to turn them away because they're
Yeah.
not ready for that, and the good ones stay, the ones that are a better fit for your
Yeah.
goals and your expectations.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So then you start driving down to Connecticut, meeting, and you met, I guess, she became your girlfriend, and then what happened?
Yeah. So we started dating like long distance. So I was out here, coming back and forth over a 6-month period or so. And I think my buddy's like lease was up, or he was about to graduate from the school, and he was like, "Hey dude, like you're gonna have to find a spot," So it pretty much accelerated the process because I didn't really want to get into a lease out there in Mass, like if this was going really well with my girlfriend at the time. So I decided to move out here, and I came out here to Hartford and got a studio apartment, and within a year or two, I proposed, and we've been married. I think August will be 12 years now.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you,
amazing.
man. Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing.
Did you did you get a job as a CNA at that point?
No, to be honest with you, man, I actually gave the CNA stuff up for a couple reasons. I was having a little bit of problems with the transferring of the state stuff. Just they wanted me to go back to school, and I'd already had a handful of years of experience, and I didn't really want to do that. And then I just I didn't like the politics of nursing and working in the hospital. I think for that season it worked for me, but when I was thinking about long term, it wasn't a good fit. And then kind of the third reason was man, the higher I was working my way up, the more access I had. And to be frank, the more access I had to medications and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want that kind of freedom. I didn't want that access,
At least you're self-aware.
Dude, that's the last thing I need to do is build a family, have a wife and kids, and be working in a hospital, and then come to find out like I'm stealing meds from the med room. I would not only ruin my life at that time, I'd ruin the life of my wife and children. So I just had to draw strong boundaries and just walk away. I just walked away from it.
So then how'd you get into barbering?
Yeah. So my brother, a couple of my siblings are biracial, and my little brother Mark, the one I kind of grew up with, he's got real curly, coarse hair. And my mom used to take him to all kinds of places, and he would just get butchered, man.
By white people?
Yeah. Yeah. He just would get hacked. I don't know why she didn't take him to a barbershop. When I was a kid, I mean, I was just like, I was getting cut on the fly, or just getting, you walk by a shop and it's like, he looks like he needs a cut. And you just throw me in there and give me a haircut. It was, I didn't grow up in a barbershop,
Yeah.
And my little brother was getting hacked. And my mom was very like DIY, like do it yourself, very artsy and stuff like that. So she was like, we're not going to keep paying for this. And so she bought a little home cutting kit, and I was probably 10, 11 years old, just bouncing around. He had his shirt off with a towel around his neck. And, I'm like, oh, let me do it. Give me the clippers. Let me try it, and he's telling her, let him do it. Let Tommy do it, So what happened, is just two brothers having fun with a pair of clippers. I picked them up, and I just never put them down. I started cutting his hair regularly and cutting friends and cut my dad. And it was always just a hobby. I just never thought I could do it as a career. I tried multiple times, even when I was in Pittsburgh. When I got out from doing the nursing stuff, I actually went to the local barber school, and I couldn't qualify for financial aid because I made too much money as a nurse aide and things like that. And just the timing never lined up, man. It never lined up. So it wasn't until I was 29 that I actually started doing it full time. So this July,
But before 29, you were just doing it on the side. It's like a side hustle.
just for fun. And, dude, even when I was in the nursing home, I was bringing a bag of clippers and like cutting the old guys. I was lining the wheelchairs up in front of the TV on the weekend, and I was cutting them all up, dude. Yeah, for fun, fun.
Good practice.
Yeah, for fun. When I was in high school working at a restaurant, when the restaurant closed, we were out back the restaurant cutting hair in a chair, cutting the cooks and stuff like that. So I just always did it for fun, and I was always volunteering to do it for free. And I mean, dude, I was cutting for free. I'm
Yeah.
just, let me give you a haircut. Let me give you a haircut. Let me give you a haircut. And then it wasn't until years later that I sat down with the barber that I was going to, and I said, "Hey, man, I'd like to take you out to coffee or have a conversation with you." He's like, "Hey, man, I'd go out to coffee with you, but if you want to ask me something, you can just ask me. We don't have to go out to coffee." And I was like, "You sure? It's about money?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, you're good." And so I started asking him questions. I said, "Well, look, I'm a barber, I'm a hobbyist, I guess you could say. And I asked him some questions, and I started asking how much he made, and he gave me a six-figure number. you know, he gave me a he was like 110 or something like that. And this was, over 10 years ago. And I was like, dude, $110,000 cutting hair. And he broke it down for me, and all the math lined up. And I was like, wow, man, when I get on Google and I'm looking up the average salary, it says like 35K, but I wasn't putting two and two together. It's because, one, a lot of barbers aren't making that kind of money. And two, people aren't paying their taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're not claiming tips.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, people aren't, they're not claiming all their money or their cash. A lot of the barber shops are their cash only and things like that. So, I didn't realize that there was money and potential to do it full time, even though I love to do it and would have loved to do it prior. I just was like, how am I going to support a family? It didn't seem like a realistic thing to support a wife and kids with cutting hair, until I actually dove into it.
It's so funny you say that. I mean, we have so much in common, along with the crazy parents and the crazy upbringing and the drugs. And I also was a barber on the side for years,
Really?
cutting my friend's hair, my friend Leon Draws, shout out to Leon.
Yeah.
The first time I did, he said it looked like an elephant licked him because I cut it too tight in the middle, and it was like probably no guard in the middle and a one on the side. It was like a reverse mellow. It was terrible. But after that, I would always do my friends and family for free.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way up to even now, to what I cut my father-in-law's hair now.
Do you?
Yeah.
Dude, it's enjoyable, man. It's enjoyable. When you're doing it full time and you got a tight schedule and you're on that next, it's a little tough, it can be at times, but it's a good job, man. It's a
But
fun.
you're inside, you're not moving concrete.
Dude, listen, trust me, there's a little 7-Eleven right across from my shop, right? And I'll go over in the morning to get water or anything like that. And the diesel trucks will be out front, dude, and the truck is packed, and you see
Getting
all
that
the
Red Bulls.
all the muddy shovels and stuff, and I can smell the diesel, and all the guys are shopping for their lunches and hot dog, and I'm like, dude, thank God I'm not,
Yeah.
thank God I'm not out there right now, but even though I would, I could handle
If
it.
you had to.
If I had to, man, if I had to,
But I'm sure your hands, I mean, just being a barber and anything you do with your hands take a toll.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years in, they take a toll.
Yeah. Thankfully, they feel fine. I think the only time I ever notice it is like when I'm trying to put IKEA furniture together and like my fingers get stuck like this, and I'm like, oh, this isn't good,
Yeah, all cramping up. Yeah, and plus IKEA is frustrating.
Yeah.
The little pieces.
Yeah.
So how did you ever end up going to an official barber school to get your license, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I actually went to I found this I tried every which way to try to figure out how to get licensed, man. I was searching up different states, fastest ways, if there was online school. I mean, I was trying anything because at the time I had a newborn baby, and I was in my first year of marriage. Me and my wife got pregnant 5 months after getting married, and I was in my second year of marriage. I had a newborn. I didn't have much money saved at all at the time. We were kind of struggling, to be honest with you. And I was like, I can't go to school 9 to 5. I need to work 9 to 5. Can't go to school, And so I ended up finding this program in New York City that was like 300 hours in like 10 weeks. So like 2 months, 2.5 months. And it was in Tribeca. It was downtown Tribeca. And my wife was born and raised in New York City, and my sister-in-laws and stuff were still there. So came up with this idea where 2 months, I'll go to the city for 2 months, and go to this barber school, and then I'll transfer my license to Connecticut. And that's exactly what I did. And I didn't end up having to go for the whole 10 weeks or 12 weeks that it was. I was there for like a couple weeks, and the lady came up to me, and the lady that was running the school at the time, and she said, you don't need to be here. And I said, no, I'm just here for my license, And I told her, look, I have a baby. I have a wife and a newborn baby back in Connecticut. Like, I don't live here. I was honest with her. I was like, hey, I need to get this license and go back home. And she said, well, look, if you can help the students for the next week, like if you can stay late and help for the next week, just come back on the graduation date, but don't tell anyone that I'm letting you do that. So I stayed and helped some of the other barbers and students that were in the class for like that week. I might have went for like 5 or 6 weeks total to barber school. And then I just went home, and then I went back for the testing, and it's no written test in New York. It's all practical. So that was pretty fun and intense, running around New York City looking for a model. Yeah, I was like, offering $100, $200 to give someone a haircut, on the streets all
Which
day.
is wild.
Took me all day. Yeah. And,
were you looking for like the perfect shaped head, I guess, or like a good?
Dude, I wasn't looking. I was just looking for what the requirements were. They had some requirements that the hair had to be like at least an inch long, and they needed at least like a 1/4 inch of hair on their face. You needed to do a straight razor shave, and you had to show all 16 strokes. So it's like, so you had to find someone willing to shave their beard off, dude. You know what I mean?
Did you find a homeless person?
No, I'll tell you what, the story is crazy. Everyone has their models. And before I go out there, I'm trying to bring people from Connecticut. I'm asking everyone, please, like, let me go take you to New York. I'll take you out to lunch. I'll pay you $100. I'll do whatever. And I could not find a model when the day came. And so I go out there and I'm like, I'm going to find somebody on the street. So all the kids are all the students are at the barber school, and they're with the instructor, and they're going over everything. Right? Like we're like 3-4 hours out, and they're going through all the strokes and all the towels and all the face massage and what to do and what will automatically fail you. And dude, I'm in the middle of the city, sweating like crazy, just running. I'm catching everybody at the traffic lights. I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100. Dude, it was insane. And I didn't get to practice at all. Okay. And my test is in like 15 minutes, right? And it's a little bit up the ways, and I'm done. That's it, Joey. I'm done. I'm going home. Like, I'm gonna have to reschedule. That's it. I can't get anybody. And I look for 3-4 hours, right? So I'm walking back to the car, dude. I'm almost in tears, right? And I'm just like, this is so disheartening. I got my wife and my kids depending on me. I've been out here in the sun 3-4 hours. My test is about to start. Dude, I'm at like the last light for where my car is parked on the side of the street. And there's this young college dude standing in front of me with a backpack. And I was like, don't ask him. And then I was like, ask him. And then don't ask him. I'm going through this whole thing. And I just kind of, dude, I'm so upset. I just kind of give him like a nod. I'm like, hey, man, give you $100 to cut your hair. Right? Like real somber.
Yeah.
Dude, he turns around. He goes, for real? He's like, for real? I'm like, yeah. He's like, when? I'm like, right now. He's like, all right. So, dude, I literally just put my hand up. Taxi, call a cab, shoot there. I mean, I got 2-3 minutes to spare, dude. I go in the bathroom, splash some water on my face, and it's like right into the test. Like, come on. They're about to like shut the door.
This is a state test requirement.
This is a state test, dude, with all the students and instructors, and it was, and
wow. So I'm assuming, so even though you only went up to 6 weeks, I mean, you had years and years that basically cancel out those hours that were, that technically that you had to do at school. You had already done them years in advance.
For sure. And I mean, I didn't know anything that some of these other schools teach as far as like color theory and all the cosmetology stuff. But when it came to the barbering stuff, I pretty much had that down. But you know how it goes. Like, I pretty much had to learn how to pass the test, not how to cut hair. I just needed to learn how to pass the test, So, and that's exactly what I did. So,
did they teach you how to use scissors?
They did not. No.
Okay. Do you now know how to do scissors?
Yeah.
Okay.
But just mostly from self-experience and just further education, taking scissor classes and things like that, like when I first started in the shop, dude, I had a little pair of Sally's, like plastic handles, and I was just winging it, man.
I still struggle with it. I bought to trim my beard, they now have a 12, a 14, a 16, and an 18 guard. That's what I use. That's what because I'm like, fuck, I struggle with it. I freehand my beard, but when I have to do like a real clean cut, that's what I do it. I do it on my own son's head, inch and a half.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I used to tell people sometimes back in the day if they had a lot of hair, especially if it was like African American hair, I could cut it. If it was curly, I could cut it. But if it was like straight long hair, I struggle with that more. I would tell them, "Hey, man, I can fade the sides up, but you're gonna have to do something with the top."
It's hard. It's different, right? It really is.
So,
Yeah, where you live and where I live, we get a very diverse population, which is nice. So you get the little feeling for everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So what? Okay, so you get your barber's license. Was there any issues transferring it?
No, it was easy, man. It was easy. I think I paid like $100 transfer fee, and Connecticut honored it. I know that at one point it went off and on, like where like from these years to these years they said no. Then they started accepting out of state licenses, and then they stopped again, and it was kind of off and on. It's on now, I believe, and it's been on since I started it. So yeah, it was an easy process.
What did you do? So okay, you get the license. Did you have a place to work out of, or what did you do then?
Yeah. So honestly, the guy that took me on, he let me come a little bit early. Like he knew I was done with school, and he had a good relationship with the local health department and things like that. And he was like, "Dude, as long as you're done your schoolwork and you have a test date, I need to show them a test date in case someone was to ever come in. At least you show that you're going to take the test." So
you're in the process.
Yeah, you're in the process. So he let me start early, and so yeah, that was pretty much it. He let me come in early and get the test, and then I transferred it, and that was it.
When did you ultimately break away from working from someone else to start your own shop?
Yeah. So this is kind of a cool story. I remember coming home, the first week, even after I went to barber school, I didn't even try to get a job in barbering, to be honest with you. I kind of thought I'll just go get this, put it in my back pocket, go look for other things. I was still trying to figure out exactly what I was going to do. And I was like, worst case scenario in my mind, like I'll try the barber thing. So I really wasn't even when I got done with the barbering school, I wasn't even fully committed to becoming a barber, or at least I wasn't considering it because I didn't have my license yet. It didn't transfer yet. And I was like, I got to go get a job. I was really desperate to work at the time. I had a newborn baby and things like that. So,
when it comes to scalp micropigmentation, you need tools you can trust. That's where InkU SMP products come in. Jade needles are designed for precision and durability, giving you consistent, flawless results every time. Pair them with InkU Pigment, a rich, long-lasting formula your clients will love. Keep things smooth with InkU Butter, perfect for soothing and protecting the skin. And finish strong with antimicrobial foam cleanser for a clean, worry-free healing process. Ready to take your SMP game to the next level? Visit inkucare.com today. InkU SMP products are made for artists by artists.
So yeah. So then after I started this shop, I remember the very first day, dude, I started on a Friday, right? So I go in on a Friday, and I just took walk-ins, and I want to say the first day I made like $200 or $300, and for me,
it's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Dude, I came home. I'll never forget this, man. I came home, and my wife was like, "How was it?" She's all excited, and I like lay the money out on the bed, and we're counting the fives and the singles. And dude, I counted it up. Maybe it was $280 or $290 for my first day. And Saturday was going to be the next day. And dude, we just hugged each other. We cried. And I was just like, this is going to, like, this could work, like this could really work, And after a couple weeks of working and getting good and honing my craft, within a very short period of time, I said, give me 2 years, I'll open my own shop. Like, give me 2 years and I'll have my own spot, you know? And so I started in July, and 2 years later, August 2nd, I opened my first barbershop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And August will be 8 years. So I've owned that shop
Congrats,
for 8.
man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Are you in your shop right now?
I'm in my studio spot. So this is
Okay.
my second location.
Okay. So you have
Yeah.
2 locations.
Yeah. So I have a barber shop that's on the downtown Main Street area here in town. That's a 12 chair shop. And right now I got all 12 chairs full, and it's established, and it's a blessing, man. It's great. And then I opened this studio this past June or July is when I opened.
I remember seeing you do the renovations when
Yeah.
you're getting in
Yeah.
there. It's a
Yeah.
cool
So
spot too, right? Like
yeah,
a
it's
split
like
level.
yeah, it's split level. So on the upper level, I have my 2 S&P offices and private rooms, and then on the lower level, I have like a barber studio with 4 chairs on the bottom. So
It's really
pretty,
nice. Like from the pictures I've seen, this looks really
yeah,
nice. Like you didn't get a little shithole.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Not that
So
there's anything wrong with that, but you know,
yeah,
it's legit. It's
yeah,
legit.
yeah.
I didn't realize you had a 12 chair location as well.
Yeah. So that place is cool, man. It's a cool place.
And so you have 4 daughters?
4 girls, 4 daughters, 2, 4, 6, and 10.
2, 4, 6, and 10. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what's it, I mean, running a business, 2 locations, 4 kids and a wife, how do you manage your time?
So one way is, one is, you got to roll with it, right? And there's always this thing of balance, and there is no balance, and you got to balance and all this stuff. But I try to be really intentional with my time that I'm with my kids, and I'm with my wife. I just try to make that time count for something, And then also, when my 4th daughter was born, I started taking Tuesdays off. So I was getting 3-day weekends for a long time there. But when I was doing SMP, I was doing SMP on Sundays and Mondays, and Tuesday my shop opened up. And when I first started doing SMP, I couldn't do SMP while the shop was open. So I started taking off Tuesdays to force myself to take a day off,
Okay.
So some of the weekends I'm only getting 1-day weekends. And then other times when I didn't have any clients, I was getting 3-day weekends. So I've actually sacrificed money. It's one thing to say family's first, and family's more important than this and that. And it's another thing to actually make real decisions that cost you dollars, to do it. So I've made decisions to give them that time, especially when they're this little. I'm trying to soak it up.
I think you made the right decision. I had to do that too. I used to work 7 days a week, especially when I was still working for JP Morgan and then doing this on the weekends. But then once I had kids, I was like, I can't keep working on the weekends.
Yeah.
I want to spend time with my kids. And I
Yeah.
felt guilty. I was like, I'm making my
Yeah.
wife do everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was saying my wife is a homeschool mom too, so she really does a lot of work.
Oh shit. So your girls don't go to school? They just only homeschool?
Homeschool. Yeah. I mean, technically only 2 of them really are doing active school. The other ones are so little.
Yeah.
They're doing shapes and numbers and stuff like that. But my other 2 are, reading and writing and math and all that kind of stuff. So
How's your wife like doing that?
she loves it. She absolutely loves it. I mean, it comes with its challenges, but when we first started dating, man, I'm 5 years older than her. I think I was 26. She was 21 when we started dating. And when we talked about life and cast and vision of what the future would look like and our desires and dreams and things like that, she told me right from the beginning that if she ever had kids, her dream was to be a stay-at-home mom and homeschool her kids,
That's
And
great. And to find a girl who's like that at 20, 21 years old, you usually don't encounter that, I would say, all the time.
yeah.
And someone who holds true to it as well and sticks with it.
Yeah, I think she had a degree in social work. She had got out of school and had a degree in social work, but you know, she obviously would have took a job in that, but she said if we can stay home and make that work somehow, that's another thing what I'm talking about is actually making the sacrifices, not having two incomes. I've taken on one income so that, the time she has invested in them, we feel is worth it.
Agreed. And you also don't have to pay for daycare. You don't have to
Yeah.
pay for, and
Yeah.
I would think you have a little peace of mind in regards to safety. It's your wife, it's
Yeah.
their mom taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
They're not in some random, daycare that they may or may not have cameras. Crazy shit happens all the time in daycares.
Yeah.
My son got bit at the gym daycare. Not bad, but like, it's something we had to deal with,
I remember, you remember rat tails? I don't know why this
Yeah,
came
of
up.
course. Bro.
I
Yeah.
remember my brother had a mean rat tail, and I remember him coming home one day and he was screaming and crying, cut it off, cut it off. And my mom was like, what happened? And he said that the kid behind him in the seat put it in his mouth. He bit it,
Ah.
rat tail, and he made him cut it off. But I mean, school's crazy, man. Crazy.
Have you so Tom, you're in a biracial marriage, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Has there any have you had any issues with that? Or is it any complications?
No, I haven't had any at all. I don't think she has either. Like I said, maybe growing up around some diversity and my siblings being biracial and things like that. But I can tell you this, I'm married to a Dominican woman, and in Baltimore, I don't remember any Spanish people, or around Maryland. I mean, it's black and white, or maybe there's some Mexicans or South Americans, but I couldn't tell the difference between Puerto Rican, Dominican, Colombian. I didn't have any type of, you know, I couldn't tell the difference, until
Yeah, you
until
weren't close enough in a relationship with them to know
When I
what's
first
what.
met my wife, I honestly thought she might have been just a light skinned black woman. I didn't even know she was Dominican until she told me it was Dominican, and I still don't even know if I'd ever heard of it. I'm like, what's that?
What does she speak Spanish?
She does speak Spanish. So her mom came over from Dominican Republic, and my wife is one of 7 siblings, 6 girls, 1 boy, I believe, or it's 6 siblings. I can't remember, but it's 6 or 7. And she has a big, large Hispanic family. They grew up in New York. Yep, 6, 7, and they. My mother-in-law is also an entrepreneur, man. She's a grinder. She's a hustler. So she's owned a couple restaurants. She has some real estate, and she's a go-getter. But yeah, meeting my wife, that was my whole introduction, to that type of culture. I remember like the very first birthday party I went to, and the food I was served and the music I was listening to. I was like, this is awesome. What is this? So
We
I
get
just
our ass. Are you teaching your daughter Spanish? Are they learning Spanish
We're
too?
trying, man. We're trying,
Force them.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know Spanish, I know a very little bit, and people are shocked by that. They're like, how are you married to your wife for over 10 years? You don't know Spanish. And I'm just like, dude, we talk English, we talk
Yeah.
English to each other. And she spoke Spanish at home and English at school, so, Spanish is her first language, but, outside of school, outside of the home, she spoke English. So we just communicate in English, but we're trying with the girls. My last one, my baby Adela, the fourth child, the youngest one, she probably knows more Spanish than all of them, just because we just made the mistake of not being super intentional with the first 3. So now we're doing it with the last one, and she probably knows more than all of them.
That's great. I have
Yeah.
a friend who married a Russian chick, and he actually gets a little frustrated. She only talks to the kids in Russian.
Really?
And yeah, but because who else you got? There's not that many. At least
Yeah.
Spanish. There's a lot of Spanish speakers. How many Russian people?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know how helpful it is for them to know Russian, but
He says it's their secret language, and he feels like
Yeah.
they're talking shit on him sometimes. But yeah,
I tell my wife that. So you just talk to him in Spanish, and I'll talk to him in English. Just keep talking to him in Spanish. But it's hard.
yeah, that'd
man.
be great. Maybe you pick up a few things. I think them learning it will be good for them, and that's
Yeah.
great because having your wife that speaks Spanish, I've done full SMP procedures using Google Translator.
Have you really?
Yeah, yeah. But occasionally I'll have them speak to a Spanish person. But if it's someone if it's your wife, you can easily be like, hey, can you tell them this?
We've done that many times. We've done that many times where someone will inquire and they're inquiring in Spanish, and I'll get their number or whatever, and I'll have my wife translate. So I haven't tapped in too much of the marketing with her speaking, but I should, though. I really should.
You definitely should. You should 100% target them.
Yeah, yeah.
Without a doubt.
I need to cash out on that. Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Why not? So is her grandmother and them still down in the DR?
No, they're here. They're here,
Okay.
actually. They live here. They still have a couple. They both have houses in Dominican Republic, but they're primarily here.
Have you and the kids went down there?
Yeah, so we went down about a year or so ago. We went for like 3 weeks, and they're from the capital, Santo Domingo.
Okay.
And so we went to the capital for a week, and then we went outside the city and stayed for a couple of weeks at a nice Airbnb by the beach and stuff like that. So it was definitely a cool experience and a interesting experience for sure.
Did you get to see like where they grew up?
Well, my wife was born in the Bronx. The other siblings were born in Santo Domingo, but my wife and her one other sister were born in New York City. So they actually were raised here entirely. I got to see the city that they grew up in, but I didn't get to see their houses. But it was definitely, that was my first. I just got my passport a couple years ago. That was the first time I'd ever traveled, and I thought the very first place I got to go is I have to go to DR. Right? It just felt right for my kids, for her.
For sure.
That was actually my first time leaving the country, and yeah, man, it was quite an experience. It was definitely eye-opening visiting a third world country. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but it wasn't Punta Cana, it wasn't the resorts and everything you see on the commercials.
The horseback riding.
Yeah, it was none of that. So it made me very grateful to be here and to have the life that we have,
Real quick, since you weren't on the resorts, at any point did you feel I guess like in danger?
So I didn't feel endangered. Maybe I was a little bit bolder than I thought, than I probably should have. But my mother-in-law and my wife were very scared for me for some reason. I'd want to walk to like the grocery store and they'd be like, I don't know, like wait for us. And I'm like, I'm just gonna, it's no big deal. Kind of one of the funny things was like we'd be at the grocery store, the bodegas, and they have like, it's not Walmart, it's called something else. They got some kind of big box store over there, and I was looking for something. And when I was walking around the store and trying to get the attention of the workers, they were ignoring me. They wouldn't speak to me. So they would just,
Because you were a white guy? Do you think? Or because you spoke English and they didn't speak English?
I couldn't figure it out. And I knew a little bit of Spanish to speak to them, right? And my 10-year-old was with me, and she just thought it was hysterical. She thought it was so funny. I wasn't taking it personal. To me, it was kind of humorous. But I was over there, permiso. So excuse me. I'm trying to get their attention, and they would just ignore me in the grocery stores. People were looking the other ways, and I talked to a couple people, and they just were like, they're either just, some of them are either just annoyed by tourists, or to be honest with you, you're white and you're covered in tattoos like up to your throat. They probably just think like, I'm not interested in engaging this guy. Like he's trouble. Like I look like trouble to them. So
you're coming down here banging the hot Dominican chicks.
Yeah, or he's like he's a drug dealer, murderer or something. You know what I mean?
No, I could see their standpoint. Yeah,
every time and side note, every time me and my wife travel, every time she gets searched. Every time.
Really?
They stop her every time. They always tell us the same thing. It's at random. You guys, and
they think like she's getting it from somebody in the DR moving stuff up here.
It's like us traveling back and forth from Florida. They're wiping her hands, they're patting her down, they're checking our stroller, and we're like, it's not random when it happens every time.
No, it's not.
They think she's trafficking drugs for me. You know what I mean?
Well, as long as you're not doing it, you should be good, right?
Yeah. I don't mind it.
So, and then let's get into, Who'd you end up training in SMP with?
I trained with Taylor Perry down
I
in
did.
Florida.
Did you go to Florida or did you do it at the CT Expo?
I did it in Miami. I did it in
Okay.
Miami. Yeah. So it was cool, man. I went down in January and I can't remember what my research process was, but Taylor seemed like the guy, shout out to Taylor. He was the guy to go to, especially at that time, still is, So I went down there and I actually brought my wife and kids down and we ended up just staying a week in Miami. So that was really cool. The training went great. And then it was really cool, man. Taylor showed me a lot of love at second or third day after we were down there, like him and his wife and kids and me and my kids, we all went out and did some cool stuff, played, went out to eat together and things like that.
Oh, that is really cool.
I thought that was really cool,
Yeah.
especially when, we didn't know each other. I was just a
Yeah, you didn't have to do that.
student in his class. Yeah. So that always, gave me a lot of respect for him doing that.
Yeah, Taylor took me out and he didn't have to do that either. It was just me. I didn't bring the family, but he took me out, very expensive dinner, stuff like that. And he didn't have to do all that. And I was grateful.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was super cool. And I mean, he might have even brought it up to me too. Like, hey, I told him I was down there with my kids. He was like, hey, we should do something. I got my kids. We should maybe tomorrow or whatever. There's some cool things to do. And, we went out and stuff like that. So we've been cool ever since. That's
great. So you'll probably see him at the expo.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Are you getting a booth again?
I don't think so this year. I kind of wanted to do it as a launch, kind of as a marketing launch, like last year, right before I opened the studio. So what I did was I pretty much built a booth that mirrored the studio that I was opening, kind of like what you see behind me. Built like this really nice booth, and I kind of did it as a kind of a launch pad right before we opened. But I don't think I'm going to do it this year. Taylor actually asked me if I wanted to help out and do some of the education this year, but I gotta see the schedule and figure out what I'm doing still.
Sounds good, man. That's great. What so what products do you use when you're doing SMP?
Okay. All of them or what?
No, like what inks, what's your favorite inks and needles and so
I'm using Dynamic right now.
Are you using, okay.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I stuck with what I got trained on, I tried some other stuff. But I got trained with the world famous. And so I was using the world famous gray wash set in some of the perma blend mods and things like that for a long time. And then I switched to the dynamic stuff. So
are you diluting it yourself?
No, it's already pre-diluted.
Okay. So you get the pack, like the light, medium.
Yeah, it's like 00 up to 80. So it's like 00, 20, 40, 60, 80. And then I have a little gem, a little secret color, and that's Union Black. And that's for very dark skinned clients. And I don't think there's a darker ink in the industry, to be honest with you.
Union Black. I use Super Black. Huh. Maybe I'll have to check that one out.
Union Black by Dynamic.
I like that you're honest, because a lot of people will come on here and not admit that they're using that type of ink. So thank you for that.
Yeah, just make sure you mod it up, dude.
Yeah. Sprinkle it in the orange, mix it all together. What about needles?
I like the InkU needles, man.
Yeah, InkU is great. InkU is great.
The bug pen is so tight, I just love the impressions that they leave. I've tried all the major companies you can think of. I can get the job done with essentially all of them, but those InkUs, I really like and seem to want to use more often than not.
Have you met Eric?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there before. Yeah.
Have you tried your close competitor's needles, True Follicle, Anthony?
No.
Okay.
I haven't, but I'd be down to.
You should. Anthony, they're not a sponsor, but True Follicle needles are fucking great. They're great needles. Yeah. I wouldn't lead you. I wouldn't tell you that.
He does the 2 impression needle, right? He has
instead of it coming together like this, 3. Okay, a 3 hard round liner. It's a 2 round liner, and I promise you, especially when you're working on hairlines and fair-skinned white people, that is what you want.
Really? Do you use do you use the I'm not gonna say the training wheel arm.
No.
You do? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know if that
I would build I can see why I didn't even teach people who I'm training to use it, because Mast has that too. You know, the Mast, one of the purple ones.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bad habit to get used to. It's like, why not just learn the right way? But I also understand why they
his
designed
argument
it.
is speed, his speed, right? That you don't have to worry about pressure. You can just fly through it with that.
I haven't used them. I'm just doing the depth on my own.
Yeah.
But it could work, but I choose not to use it. But I promise you the needles are great. The 0.18s, and I think he's got 0.25s too. But they're
Really?
worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know how far away he is from you.
Dude, he's probably 10 minutes from me, 10, 15
Man,
minutes.
just show up and just like, let me buy some needles.
Let
off
me
you.
get
Just
some
be
of
cool.
these.
He's cool. Anthony's cool. I don't know if you ever met him.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be down to try him for sure. But yeah, dude, I like I had to do a lot of, probably like you, it just took a long time experimenting with machines and learning speeds of machines and how much pressure is like my natural touch, and then trying to match it with the right machine and the right speed and the right needle. It takes a little bit to kind of get your winning combo down, and then once you got it down, you kind of stick to it. I mean, at least I do. I'll get a little bit outside the box, but I like to stick with what I know.
Me too. Just spacing it out. The first session is big. In the beginning, for some reason, when I was like first couple years, I was always trying to, I guess, add more density than I should have. Where now I just keep it more spread out, and then I add a lot more density the second session. I always do 3 for the most part, but yeah.
Yeah. I kind of took the reverse approach from that.
What are you doing?
I was really spacing them out in the beginning, and then I felt like when I was spacing them out in the beginning like that, sometimes I was running into like 3 or 4 sessions. I think now, and that was
3
really,
sessions is normal though. That's what most people should get, is 3.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I was going farther than that, but even now, even with me doing tighter spacing, I'm always at 3 sessions, but that third session usually is like very light. It's fine tuning, which I enjoy.
Yeah. Make adjustment on the hairline or something, a little bit more blending.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. So we're gonna wrap this up. This is great, man. You have an incredible story. We're almost 2 hours in. Where can people find you? What is your say all your social media stuff?
Yeah, man. So on Instagram, it's Thomas Mitch _. And then I have 180 SMP and 180 Studios CT on Instagram. So
boom, go check them out. If you're in Connecticut, New York, all the surrounding area, Rhode Island, wherever, up north, Vermont, not that far away from Vermont.
Yeah.
All right, stay on, buddy.
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man. This was, this isn't my normal conversation, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, man. Thank you.